Wang Ling is just a skinny-ass loser who is out to buy some noodles. At first glance, you could hardly tell there is something special about him, besides the fact that his wacky ass appears to be more on the underweight side. However, when an S-rank monster, namely the Great Frog Spirit, suddenly appears and crushes his noodles, Wang Ling gets triggered and unleashes a powerful energy bolt that knocks out the creature. However, he hides his abilities, and since there had been no spectators, the defeat of the Great Frog Spirit is credited to a superhero who had been nearby on duty. The city of Huaxu returns to a state of peace and years pass without any incident. Wang Ling is now a teenager and joins his local high school. His first day is anything but peaceful as a group of bullies begin to pick on him due to his low force level.
你就是那个灵力5的新学员吧？不用担心，小师弟，师兄们都会好。
Students are judged according to their force level, which is a sign of their ability, and which also gives them a standing in the hierarchy of the school. Before Wang Ling can react, the bullies are thrown back by a fireball from the most attractive girl in the school, Sun Rong. She approaches our MC and extends a hand of friendship, but our boy literally hands her some money and walks away. Talk about El Riz. Meanwhile, the school is organizing an examination to determine which class every student should be assigned to, ranging from ordinary to elite. The objective is to enter a simulation and punch an incarnation of the spirit frog, which would then decide on which force level the pupil stands. There is a wide range of kids, with some failing miserably and being sent to class ordinary, while some performing exceptionally and being granted entrance into class elite. Sung Rong's perfect strike on the frog earns her an extremely high score, which leaves the audience in awe. Wang Ling is next in line, with most of the watchers writing him off due to rumors of his ridiculously low force level. Our protagonist does not care and tries to control his strength before unleashing a strike, but to no avail as he knocks down the entire incarnation. While everyone else thinks that it is dead, Wang Ling notices that a portion of its spirit was able to escape. His performance leaves everyone speechless, and the instructor specially comes out to announce that he would be starting out in class elite. Our protagonist continues to impress in class as well. While everyone is struggling to summon spirits, Wang Ling is purposely holding back as he is afraid of what he might bring out. However, after being pressurized by his teacher, he accidentally summons the Great Frog, who is sick of the boy's face by now. Fortunately, it is able to transform into a green dog and the entire class immediately swarms around it to pat it, not wishing to be the center of attention. Our antisocial hero silently walks out of class. Wang Ling's origin story is nothing short of a miracle either. Our boy literally walked out of his mother's womb, much to the shock of the hospital staff and his waiting father. His parents accepted that their son possesses extraordinary abilities and even catered to them by bringing him a demon sword when he was just a toddler. However, the true extent of his powers could not be understood by even them. Although he could not speak yet, Wang Ling's mind was 100% conscious, and he could assess any situation similar to how an adult would. As he grew older, his abilities made it difficult for him to make friends or attend public gatherings, as even the slightest touch could make him lose control. When his parents saw him defeat the Great Frog, they began coming up with remedies which would allow him to control his powers. He would take pills and have surgeries in an attempt to make his life easier, but to no avail. That is, until scientific improvement has allowed the creation of an amulet which would finally grant Wang Ling control of his abilities. As a result, he is keeping a low profile until the trinket is finally in his grasp. Meanwhile, elections for president are in full swing at his high school. Sung Rong and Chen Kao are competing against each other, with each holding elaborate gatherings to attract voters. Sung Rong belongs to a rich and influential family, which is why she is able to buy the entire canteen at school and announce that there would be free snacks for anyone who voted for her. This pisses off Chen Kao, who says such an act is unethical. But when Wang Ling agrees to vote for Sung Rong in return for free noodles, a horde of students follow his lead. Turns out this is all part of the girl's master plan, as she has placed a spell on anyone who took the free food to become obsessed with her. Fortunately, our MC gave her a golden pill in return, which breaks the charm on him. Later that day in class, Wang Ling notices something off about the entire class and realizes that Sung Rong has bewitched them. He signals to her to eat the golden pill he gave, which she does so unsuspectingly. Apparently, it reduces the force level an individual can exert, and the spell on the class is instantly broken. As a result, she loses the election to Chen Kao, who is still unaware of how close he was to getting hoodwinked. Their class teacher had been observing this entire scene silently, and at home time, he calls up one of the members of the protection squad and informs them about the abilities of Wang Ling. Meanwhile, it appears that Sung Rong's spell has backfired, and now she is the one who is suddenly obsessed with our hero. The high school has now begun classes on pill refining, for which every student brings their own furnace from home. Each pupil shows off their luxury furnace to the other, hoping to gain an edge by intimidation. However, as soon as Sung Rong steps out of her limousine with entire lines of guards around her, Chen Kao, who has a crush on the girl, tries to get her attention. But Sung Rong only has eyes for Wang Ling. She goes up to him with an apparent blush on her cheeks and is about to start flirting when our protagonist suddenly moves closer to her.
What?
And removes the charm that is dangling above her head. The spell breaks and Sung Rong finally comes to her senses. Meanwhile, back in class, each of the students are now hard at work, trying to create a golden pill according to the instructions given to them by their teacher. While Chen Kao is using an ancient furnace, which is a family heirloom, and Guo Hao has the latest furnace, Wang Ling is heating his materials in a mere microwave. Someone tell Lil Bro cooking class is the other way. With most of the hard work done, the students leave to allow the materials to heat in their furnaces for a few hours. However, Wang Ling is suspicious of something and is proved right when he re-enters the room and finds that Froggy 2, in his canine form, is trying to eat Guo Hao's furnace. He manages to save it, but the boy suddenly appears and assumes that our hero is trying to ruin his project. Guo Hao shoots a toxic liquid at Wang Ling, which he dodges, and is accidentally eaten by Chen Kao, who is right behind our MC. Fortunately, the liquid only creates rashes and would be treated instantly if an antidote is administered in time. The two carry Chen Kao's unconscious body back to the classroom and manage to cook up an antidote, whose creation is sped up by the help of Froggy 2's powers. Just as they manage to administer the antidote to Chen Kao, their teacher appears and begins examining the pills made by the two boys. Miraculously, Guo Hao's pill is perfect, while Wang Ling's one is a poor excuse for an edible. While the teacher scolds our hero, Guo Hao watches him in awe as he assumes that the boy had switched both their pills so that he would get credit for his hard work. In reality, no such thing had happened, but on the bright side, this allows Wang Ling to become firm friends with Guo Hao and Chen Kao, which would make his high school experience all the more exciting.
刚才我们放学看到你跑得筋疲力尽，倒在跑道上，就把你扶过来了。
As if his life is not entertaining enough, Sung Rong is now adding a new dynamic to Wang Ling's high school experience. Once class is over, the turbo cute girl approaches our MC and asks him out on a date, much to the shock of the entire class. However, unknowns to Sung Rong, two assassins have been hired to shoot her down and are currently aiming for her from the opposite building. Wang Ling senses the threat and sends a powerful force towards the two assassins just as one of them pulls the trigger, which results in the weapon malfunctioning, thus foiling their plan. An awkward silence has now fallen over the class as Sung Rong looks at the boy expectantly, waiting for a reply to her proposal. Wang Ling is saved from embarrassment by the appearance of their class teacher, who summons him to the principal's office. In a moment of blood rush, he agrees to Sung Rong's date, which sends the girl to the 7th level of heaven. The school's principal is none other than the superhero who was given the credit for defeating the Great Toad all those years ago. His name is Zhuo Li, and he reveals that he recognizes Wang Ling from that fateful night when a mere child knocked out a powerful spirit with just a kick. Zhuo Li falls to the ground and begs our MC to become his master and train him. However, all this recognition is making Wang Ling uncomfortable, and he performs a charm which removes all memories the man has of him. Meanwhile, news of the new couple has spread across the entire school like wildfire. The couple trope of the super popular IT girl dating the weak loser has created quite the commotion, with everyone following their love life closely. Surprisingly, even Wang Ling's parents are supportive of this ship, since Sun Rong's family has sent an entire crate of golden pills to their house, which otherwise would have cost nearly a fortune. Our MC has no choice but to roll with it. His plan to remain low-key has now gone out of the window, with Sun Rong showing up to his house in a limo with her army of guards. Her date idea is to spend the day at her personal penthouse, which has also been converted to an amusement park. However, their date is ruined when the two assassins show up. But Wang Ling foils their plans once again and uses his charm to make Sun Rong forget what just happened. The rest of the day is spent in a similar fashion, with our hero saving the girl again and again, and then making her forget the existence of the assassins. The only time he lays down his guard is by the end of the date, when the couple are sitting in the Ferris wheel. The assassins sneak up on them and place a gun to Sun Rong's head. Wang Ling has no choice but to show off his abilities in front of his date and send the assailants flying off from the ride. He then makes a pinky promise with Sun Rong to keep his powers a secret, and they end the day on a romantic note while watching a show of fireworks. Since Sun Rong belongs to an influential family, it appears that she has attracted the attention of the notorious Shadow Clan, who had previously sent the two assassins after her. Their initial failure has pissed off their leader, who demands that another unsuccessful mission would be unacceptable, and to truly put her point across, she literally kills one of her henchmen in front of their very eyes. Talk about being brutal. Meanwhile, Wang Ling is seen as a god back on campus due to his date with Sun Rong. Chen Kao literally comes up to him and begins observing his hand due to the fact that it had come in contact with the girl. Security has increased tenfold at the institution as wind of the assassin attacks has reached the principal, who insists that his skilled guards would not allow even the slightest of threats to come near the girl. Unknowns to him though, the Shadow Clan has already managed to infiltrate the high school and is observing all of them through a minuscule spy fly. Another smart thing that Wang Ling has done is that, after he had defeated the assailants at the amusement park, he altered Zhuo Li's memories to make him think that it was him who had taken them down. Which is why the entire school congratulates the man, and he once again takes the credit of doing a whole shitload of nothing. The Shadow Clan sends an assassin with abilities, this time in the form of an earthbender by the name of Zhu Feng. He manages to enter the school by digging through the ground and emerging in the courtyard, where he then takes down the guards on duty. He informs his counterpart Zhu Ying that the coast is clear, and then continues with the plan. Despite the skills of the guards, all it takes is a can of toxic gas from Zhu Ying to knock them out. Which is why the class teacher, Wang Zukang, has no choice but to step up and take matters into his own hands. Although he appears to be aged, his skills have not deterred in the slightest, and a hint of fear can be seen in Zhu Ying's eyes when he faces the man. He tries to end Wang Zukang with one strike of his enormous weapon, but the teacher is unscarred and is now powered up with golden energy. Zhu Ying realizes that he is in trouble and tries to retreat, but is tripped by Wang Ling, who had just come out of a nearby classroom. Zhu Feng is also taken down by none other than the Great Toad, who literally sucks out his life essence. The only assailant left is their leader Zhu Jian, who managed to escape detection due to his powers of invisibility. However, our hero deals with the guy personally without even moving a muscle. Zhu Jian tries to end him with a strike of his huge hammer, but miraculously, the weapon is smashed to pieces and he accepts defeat. Thus, another assassination attempt by the Shadow Clan has been foiled. To avoid attracting attention once again, Wang Ling pretends to be injured after his encounter with Zhu Jian. Sun Rong is distraught when she finds him unconscious, with a drop of blood on his forehead. His parents obviously see through this facade, and his mother scolds him for making such a huge commotion and to quickly return to school. His friends from school pay him a visit, but the most concerned out of all of them is still Sun Rong, who still wonders if her boyfriend is in danger. They then inform our MC about a new test that is coming up in class. Apparently, it is another examination of a student's force value, except the energy now has to be summoned out of their bodies. Every pupil has to wear a wristband which would then calculate the intensity of the spiritual power and give them a ranking. A boy from another class by the name of Tang Jingzi manages to reach the top of the rankings in this examination, leaving his classmates in awe of his ability. Sun Rong wonders if she should skip the test because she does not feel well, but after persuasion from Chen Kao and Guo Hao, she agrees to give it. Her force level is also extremely high, and she finishes second on the leaderboard, just behind Tang Jingzi. The only remaining student is Wang Ling, who already has bad experiences with such examinations. Once again, he attempts to control his powers and creates a ball of energy while directing most of its intensity into space. However, the wristband picks up on his spiritual power and gives him a ranking of null. Much to everyone's shock, he is given the #1 spot on the leaderboard, with Tang Jingzi particularly annoyed about being bested by a boy he knows nothing about. Later that night, Wang Ling calls Guo Hao over to his house and convinces him to hack into the database and change his rankings to something lower so that he would not attract any further attention. Side by side, Tang Jingzi has also hacked the system so that he could get details on how the boy had ranked so high. However, Guo Hao accidentally triggers the alarm and has to leave before his presence is detected. The only change he was able to make was to alter Tang Jingzi's name to Tang Birdie 2, which pisses the guy off even more and makes him want to get revenge ASAP. With the rankings now released publicly, Wang Ling's teacher is confused when she sees him at the top of the national leaderboard. In her opinion, the boy had been below average in her class with no special abilities to speak of. Although having 2 students in the top 10 rankings of the nation is a sign of respect for the school, it also puts them at a disadvantage since they would now have to face Faction 59 first in the inter-school sword competition. Their track record against Faction 59 has been horrible over the last couple of years with not a single victory to boast of. To make matters worse, Tang Jingzi is a student there and his abilities are feared throughout the country. During an interview, it is evident to see that Tang Jingzi is still salty about his loss to Wang Ling in the force level examination, and being called Tang Birdie 2 is just rubbing salt into his wounds. He mentions Sun Rong as a worthy opponent, but as soon as the interviewer asks him about Wang Ling, he visibly flinches and walks away. Meanwhile, Zhuo Li and Wang Zukang are having a deep discussion of who their 5 participants should be for the sword competition. Wang Ling's teacher is shocked when she sees the list is mainly made up of first years, with Sun Rong, Chen Kao, Guo Hao and Wang Ling included. She asks them who their 5th participant would be, to which Zhuo Li gestures towards Froggy 2. This makes her even more speechless since it has been unheard of that a dog takes part in a sword competition. Froggy 2 is made to wear the wristband and his force level is determined to be 5,000, which moves it up to second on the leaderboard, pushing Tang Jingzi down to third. This fills him up with even more wrath than before. After school is over, Wang Zukang creates a chat room where he informs the 5 participants of their inclusion in the sword competition. Chen Kao is the most happy out of all of them as he feels that he is finally making his family proud. His father gifts him a sword which he takes a picture of and sends on the group chat. This results in the other participants also showing off their weapons, including Froggy 2, for whom it is surprising that he owns a sword at all. Wang Ling is the only one who does not take part in the discussion, with his only reply to being asked about his sword is yes. With the competition growing closer, Tang Jingzi submits his list of swordsmen. He has left the final name empty as he discloses that this would be a mysterious participant who would make it impossible for Faction 60 to win this battle. This mysterious guy is shown to be He Bufang, a ruffian who is fighting random men in a dark alleyway. Despite Wang Ling's best efforts to ignore the competition, the fact that his name has been given pretty much confirms his participation. So he has no choice but to dig up his old sword, and finds out from his mom and dad that his sword is kept up in the attic. Our MC finally finds it in a box, but as soon as he opens the lid, the spirit of a little kid pokes his head out. Once again, he wonders if taking part in this competition is the smartest thing, since it is clear that he cannot keep a lid on his abilities, and if he loses control during a fight, it may result in widespread panic among his peers as well as the public. However, he cannot let his friends down and decides to go for the competition. But when it is time to fight, he would back out via an excuse of a stomach ache. When his classmates catch sight of his tiny wooden sword, which looks pathetic in comparison to the mighty weapons of his teammates, they cannot help but laugh. Sun Rong calls it cute, and Froggy 2 is the only one who can sense the extreme power behind the sword. Zhuo Li arrives to see off the kids in the bus, but is unable to join them as he receives word that the leader of the Shadow Clan has been captured as well. He arrives at the prison and enters the prison cell, where she is chained up. But as soon as he comes closer to inspect her, he notices a timer in her eyes which is just about to go off. Fortunately, he manages to react swiftly and pull out the detonator before it goes off. The leader of the Shadow Clan is a mastermind who had orchestrated an entire plan to pretend that she had been caught. This is all so that she could finally kill Zhuo Li, but that plan of hers is unsuccessful. However, she is not to be deterred and continues with the main task of shooting Sun Rong, whose responsibility she has now taken into her own hands. She follows the girl all the way to Faction 59, where she observes the group from a distance. Here, Wang Ling's amulet, which controls his abilities, suddenly breaks and he falls to the ground, with an enormous blast of energy being released from the back of his head. Everyone assumes that it was an attack, but our protagonist realizes that he is now in an unstable condition and so will need to be even more careful, until our skinny-ass loser appears again with more adventures. Hang tight and subscribe to get the latest.